guys, welcome back to Room 237 as I continue my marathon of Italian horror and Giallo films. And for this review, I have not just another Giallo, but one of the most original and fresh Giallos I've seen in a while. And it's from 1971, and it is Short Night of Glass Dolls. There is another cover. I just put the insert in there. And it was part of this 4-movie Giallo collection set that I have. And it was directed by Aldo Lato, who also directed Who Saw Her Die, which is part of that set. And up until this point, the only film I've seen and reviewed of his is Night Train Murders, which I wasn't the biggest fan of. And it's quite the spectrum because that is very much a Last House on the Left sort of rip-off or copycat. And this is a very original, slick Giallo. I have not yet seen Who Saw Her Die. Now, it stars Gene Sorrell. He's our lead. Ingrid Thulin, Mario Adorf, Barbara Bach, and Fabian, forgive me on this, Sovagovic. And came out in 1971, which was part of the big slasher. Wow. I'm used to saying slasher boom. Giallo boom. And I'm going to keep using the term original because I haven't seen a Giallo like this in a while. Or ever. I've never seen one like this. I meant to say as original as this in a while. Now, the whole movie is told pretty much in flashback. Gene Sorrell plays Greg Moore, who I've heard in here that he's an American that moved to England, but he's where this takes place. But I thought he was just English. But he's a journalist, and he's in Prague. That's right. His body is found outside somewhere in Prague, and he's brought into the morgue, and that's when we find out, even though he's dead, his subconscious is still alive. He just can't communicate. He has no heartbeat, showing no brain function, but his body temperature is still normal, and there's no rigor mortis. And he's trying to call out to these doctors in his head. Of course, it's not working. And he has to bring himself to remember how he got there. And that's our movie. It kind of reminded me of the season 6 episode of Tales from the Crypt, You Murderer, directed by Robert Zemeckis, which, a guy is pretty much, he's dead, but he's still conscious. It was a pretty good episode. So it's told pretty much in flashback, and we cut back to doctors trying to revive him because they know this is some sort of medical anomaly, how he's not showing signs of death. But during his recollections, he remembers his girlfriend, who I think her name was Mira. I think that was her name. Yeah, Mira. She's played by Barbara Bach. She goes missing one night, and he becomes obsessed with trying to find what happened to her. Who took her, who killed her, what happened. And throughout most of the movie, it's like that episode of Tales from the Crypt, but mixed with The Vanishing, because he is just so obsessed with trying to figure out what happened to her. Now, he has a couple allies in this. He has an ex-girlfriend named Jessica, who's played by Ingrid Thulin, and his Szechian journalist colleague Jacques, played by Mario Ador, who his voice dubber, if it's not him, is speaking very Scottish. And his character's that he's an alcoholic. And the movie, the more he delves into finding out what happened to Mira, he starts uncovering this secret society, possibly this cult, and all the fingers of what happened to Mira start pointing towards him, even from law enforcement. But at the same time, he's trying to remember because he thinks if he remembers, he'll be able to wake up. And he'll be able to stop these doctors from performing his eventual autopsy, because that's what they're getting ready to do. So that's pretty much the crux of the film. And so it's a very different Giallo. We don't get any on-screen deaths. We do get a couple deaths, but they're stylized. This movie is also very stylish. The deaths we get is we see one of our characters, and then we just see the blade of a switchblade pop up in the screen, and then his body is found later. Or his blood is found, and then we see his body later. So, no on-screen deaths or really any blood. It's all really built on this mystery, which I thought was very tight and very interesting, and I really wanted to see where it was going. Up until about the third act, that's when it really shifts tone into the surreal. But before we get there are some technical aspects, like there's this one shot when he's in his apartment, and his refrigerator, the door kind of starts to open. It's this dark room, and we just see the light around the door. But it's done in this wide shot that makes his apartment look much bigger. Similar to some of the shots in All Colors of the Dark, which I'm going to make a couple comparisons to that film, especially when I get into spoilers. But it's also very Hitchcockian because of how, we know once they start his autopsy, he's done. So it's him still alive, unable to call out, unable to wake up, unable to move, and he's trying to recall everything in time. So it's very interesting. Definitely no other Giallo like this, and I highly recommend it. I thought it was very good. I'm sure some people will think it's kind of slow. I thought the pacing was fine. The acting is actually pretty well done, especially from the lead, Gene Sorrell. I thought he really carried this film very well. But with that, I guess I'll get into spoilers. And before I do, please forgive me, because the ending is very weird and strange and surreal. I'm going to try to sum it up the best I can. I don't even know if I got it 100% correct. But again, before I get into spoilers, you can find this on YouTube. So if you like streaming or watching online, it's 97 minutes. So even though I don't think there's much that can be cut anyway, but I definitely do recommend this. And if you liked Night Tree Murders and Leto's direction with that, I think you'll really like this, because it's very stylish. Very original, very stylish. And actually, the score was by Ennio Morricone, who it was actually conducted by Bruno Nicolai. The score was pretty decent as well. One of the more mellow, recurring themes reminded me a lot of Once Upon a Time in America, also done by Morricone. So you really have a lot of strengths to this, and technically it's pretty good looking. Another scene is before I get into spoilers again, I mean, where this mystery takes him, he decides to look into all missing girls cases. He finds ones that are similar, and he reaches out to loved ones involved. And eventually he finds out about this Club 99, which is run by a guy, I think his name was Zelensky. I think that was his name. Of course, yeah. Or Volinsky, who's played by Jose Quaglio, if I pronounce that correctly. And there's some really dark, sinister, foreboding things that are much bigger than him going on. And he also feels that the powers that be are out to get him from solving this mystery. But law enforcement is sure that he's involved. So, just a little bit more non-spoiler story enticement for those who are interested. But now, spoilers. Just at the moment where law enforcement is about to figure her disappearance and murder on him, he is sent home by Volinsky. And so they've already pinned Jacques' murder, because Jacques is the one who was in the phone booth, and we saw the switchblade. We see his body put somewhere, but Moore doesn't see it. He just sees the blood, the phone booth. But they've determined that Moore is a drug addict, and he gave Mira an accidental overdose, did whatever with her, and then he had to kill Jacques because in helping him, he found incriminating evidence, so he had to kill him. But by this time, he's like shivering and freezing, I'm guessing from the withdrawals. So Volinsky takes him home, and I'm guessing he either gets high or more into this more of like a withdrawal state. That's when the refrigerator opens and he sees her body in there with the gun. He's about to shoot himself. Police are at his door. He runs out. I'm not sure how much of that was a vision, if Volinsky and his people set that up. But he goes back to Club 99, which he's already been there once. And in fact, there's this great scene, because it's a club that has music, and then, behind the scenes, they do their other stuff. He sees this room with all, like, the music sheet stands, and, I mean, it's done with this wide-angle lens, so, of course, it's, like, the room looks much bigger than it probably is. And it's all, like, angled and just beautifully shot. But he stumbles across this room where there's all these elderly naked people gyrating and just thriving all over the floor. And there's the table with a naked girl's body and flowers, who appears to be Mira. So he goes up, and then that's when Volinsky comes up and says, "It's not Mira, it never was." But, and then the whole explanation I'm still a bit fuzzy on, because earlier there was a conversation about tomatoes and how tomatoes can feel from people, and how this generation is more negative or whatever. That's sort of the setup for this explanation. And this is another thing that made me think of All the Colors of the Dark, because as these people are explaining it to him, it's up close in a wide angle lens, so they look kind of distorted. Like, there's this one guy with big magnifying glasses and this head thing that, like, Ocean Master wears in DC Comics. Something about taking beautiful girls and they, like, absorb the youth out of her, and then they're sacrificed. something like that. And a few other people show up with the wide angle distortion. And all these naked old people keep gyrating and sort of rolling over each other. It also reminded me of Eyes Wide Shut. I'm sure most people thought that as well. But at this time, we see Jessica being led into this sort of, I think, med school observation room where his autopsy or open heart surgery because of his anomaly is going to be performed, and Jessica and some of the inspectors are there. They've already had it explained that he suffers from seizures, and everything I've already said about the overdose and the killing of Jacques is being pinned on him. But at this time, the guy that's performing this surgery is the guy with the big glasses, and Moore realizes this. And just at this time, he says, like, listen to me, my heart's beating. But then just as the guy is explaining where to put the scalpel, like in between the ribs where the heart is, he's able to lift his hand. But the guy knows who he is, he was the one that interrupted the ritual, holds his hand down and puts the scalpel into his heart anyway. And then it ends with Jessica screaming because even though they had a falling out in the film and she still loved him, still form or flame of each other. I thought that was a very depressing ending because it's all this build up, him trying to solve the mystery, trying to prevent this autopsy. And you think, Giallos aren't always happy endings, but just at the moment where he's able to show that he's still alive, just the wrong person happened to be there and hold it down discreetly and then kill him. So, I mean, the movie is all build up, and I think the build up was worth it because I did not see it going to some surreal Eyes Wide Shut / society type cult with the gyrating old people. And I'm still kind of fuzzy on what that was all about. So if it sounds kind of vague or inaccurate, I apologize, but that's kind of the gist of it. So yeah, very Hitchcockian. The whole idea of knowing an autopsy or operation is coming, but there's no way to stop it, and you're fully aware. That alone is terrifying. And then trying to remember how you got there, what happened to your loved one. And then just at the moment when you're able to break free, someone stops you. I mean, I thought the build-up was great. And it went to such a surreal place to such a downer place. But that's what happens. I thought this was a very solid Giallo. Very different. I mean, again, no on-screen deaths. But the mystery, it's got quite the hook to it. And doing it in such an original way with the whole, I got to remember so I can sort of wake up. That alone is a hook. So let's see if there's anything else worth noting. I guess there's also a noir film called Sunset Boulevard that kind of has a similar premise. But yeah, I thought this was a very solid film. Very different, but I thought it was very good. And all the comparisons I made were all positives. I mean, definitely had the surrealness of All Colors of the Dark. Though, I mean, imagine if Eyes Wide Shut was full of old people, but they were acting like the people in society. So, but in the acting, it was pretty solid too. I mean, Gene Sorrell really helped carry this film. So I don't know if this would be a top 10 Giallo, but it's definitely one of the most original and very tightly put together. Great build up. I really enjoyed it. I know this wasn't the best review. I'm really tired, and that was quite the ending to soak in. But I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless, and stay tuned for more Italian horror and Giallo reviews. Thank you for watching.